Hello everyone, I'm Scruffy at Scruffy Tales, and you just stumbled upon the War Zone. And in this video we will be taking a look at a tactical error made in Stepove. More specifically, a Ukrainian Bradley makes a deadly mistake getting too focused on trying to get some kills. And funnily enough, yesterday I made a video about this very thing, how Ukraine should rely on Bradleys and vehicles in Stepove. And earlier today I watched a video with ATP Geopolitics, and in that video he brought up some drone footage of this Bradley in Stepove making a big tactical error. And to be honest, it kind of annoyed me as I took a closer look at it. And I'll explain why I found it quite annoying. And let's see here, let's get a marker out. Here we go. And yes, so what we have here in the box, this is a Bradley in the drone footage. I'll provide a link to the video in the description. And this Bradley is located on a bend road, and that bend is this bend here. So here we have the box. This is the bend, and that road is this road in the town of Stepove. And as you can see here, the Bradley is located up here and now in the circle, and it's firing across the field at Russian locations, Russian positions in the buildings down here. And that is on this map here, on the satellite image, we have the Bradley down here firing across the field at Russians hiding in the buildings here. And if we take a look at the deep state map, we can clearly see that these buildings here are in Russian control. So this is where the Russians are hiding as they are trying to push into town. So makes perfect sense for a Bradley to open fire on these buildings. There's just one hiccup though, and that is this part here. This here is in Russian control, and this part here, the windbreak here, is contested area where Ukrainians and Russians are trading positions. So Bradley firing at the buildings, as you can see here, landing shots and hits on Russian positions and keeps doing it. But what eventually happens? Well, lo and behold, we have a big explosion as the Bradley gets hit by what I assume to be an RPG. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, to be honest. Because here we have an image from my previous video where I was talking about how to use Bradleys and where to set them up in order to properly prevent Russians from pushing into town. And down here is where right here to be more precise, is where the Bradley was knocked out. And in my previous video I was talking about this blue box and these buildings, that this area is probably in Ukrainian control. It's listed as contested, but it's more than likely in Ukrainian control. But it is exposed, it is very vulnerable, it will be taking shots from all over the place, from over here, from up here, it will be taking indirect fire, and so on. So it's risky for Ukrainians to set up shop here, but they gain some benefits in being able to open fire north at the Russians and also into the windbreak. But I did not say that any Bradley should move up and expose itself. I said that a Bradley should find a position down here instead, because down here it has cover and Russians can't get to it from the windbreak. And so it has buildings on its flanks protecting it, and its front armor will be facing the enemy up here, and then they can open fire all day long for as much as they want on the enemy without the risk of getting outflanked. And this is what you do with the vehicles in an urban setting. You don't drive up to the enemy, you don't expose yourself to the enemy. You set up shop behind and far away and lock down avenues of approach and streets and what have you. And quite clearly, the Ukrainians did not do this. They did not follow basic urban warfare tactics for vehicles. Instead, they drove up and picked the worst spot imaginable to set up shop, and they paid the price. And so up here, Bradley getting shot, getting knocked out, and here we have it in the bend and road right here, and the RPG most likely being fired from down here somewhere and hitting it in the flank. So what was the point of this? There's no reason to do this. The Ukrainians clearly got greedy. They just wanted to move down the road as quickly as possible and get an angle on the Russians to the north and open fire instead of thinking it through and making a tactical decision. Like I said, basic urban combat for vehicles is to, just like for infantry, make use of cover. The tactics for vehicles and tactics for infantry, the basics are the same. Do not expose yourself on open ground. Make use of terrain and make use of cover. If you're gonna cross open areas, do it in a quick dash so you spend the least amount of time in the open, and so on. And with that in mind, take a look at this. If this here is not a tactically good position, if you're an infantryman, you would not position yourself out here, would you? You would try and sneak in here somewhere and find cover and open fire at the Russians. You do not move out in the middle of a field and just stand there and go, hey, here I am, take a shot at me. No. So what should the Bradley have done if they wanted to open fire to the north? Well, take a look at this arrow here. Basically, just take a left turn in here between the buildings, and you can find a really nice spot where you still have an angle on the Russians you want to engage, and you are protected from all sides. All your vulnerable sides, the flanks, the rear, is protected from potential Russian sneak attacks. So if you had positioned yourself here, firing down here towards the Russians, the enemy with the RPG over here would have had no chance of taking the hit, taking the shot, because you have multiple buildings and trees and what have you in the way. So this is the smart move. This is the obvious move, and this is the move 99% of vehicle crews in Western armies would have made. This here, quite frankly, annoys the shit out of me, because they know that further up this tree break here, they have enemies, and Russians, they like to carry around RPGs. So annoying watching that video. Right, anyway, moving on, some news on the combat in and around Stepove. 4th of December, we could see that the Russians had pushed up south of Stepove, securing the windbreaks down here. But now on the 5th of December, as the maps have been updated, we can now see that Ukraine has made a big push and forced Russia back. Even though Russia has managed to secure some of the windbreaks and territory down here. And this area here, where Ukraine has pushed the Russians back along the windbreak, it is this area here in the blue box. We have Stepove, windbreaks, and over here is where the Bradley got shot. And down here is where the Russians had pushed in, set up shop, and now Ukraine has forced them back. And this area is now contested, and probably a lot of heavy fighting going on, considering that Ukraine has just recently moved in here to try and clear out the windbreaks of Russian resistance. So anyway, that's all I have for you on this topic. Yes, I am annoyed. That is not how you use a vehicle in such close proximity to enemy forces, especially in an urban setting. You have to be smarter, especially in this day and age with drones and with top attack missiles like NLAWs and Javelins. Even though Russia might not have them, those weapon systems still have to decide how you use the vehicle, how you utilize the vehicle. I mean, for fuck's sake, the Russians could have picked up an NLAW and carried it with them and utilized it against the Bradley. So no, you have to be smarter. Otherwise, Ukraine will lose every Bradley they have in the arsenal. So this was clearly a bad move, a tactical error on the commanders, from the commander here of the Bradley. And so, yeah, they need to step up the game. I know this is armchair generaling like nothing else. I'm sitting at home having a coffee, not at risk of getting shot by anyone. I mean, with the way things are in Sweden, who knows? But fuck that. I realize it's a bit of a douchebag move, getting annoyed with something I've seen on the internet, since I'm not down there making decisions in the heat of the moment. Sure. Still, that was a massive tactical error, and the commander is fully to blame for what happened when they took that hit from the RPG. That said, Ukraine is more than likely still holding on to Stepove, and they are putting up a fantastic fight in pushing the Russians back. So with that, go på marsch Ukraine and give them hell. And I'll see you in the next one.